So Joe Rogan got brutally fact-checked on his own podcast. He was interviewing MMA fighter Bo Nickel, and they were talking about how that Joe Biden is in decline, and Joe Biden don't know where he is, and Joe Biden can't complete a sentence, and Joe Biden trips and falls down, and every other right-wing talking point that MAGA's cooked up these days. But then they started talking about that time that Joe Biden said that there was airports during the Revolutionary War. Yeah, Joe Biden said there was airports in the Revolutionary War, and Joe Rogan said, yeah, man. He said, well, if you say something like that, you're done. You're done, man. They should just come and lead you away at that point because your career is over. You have no business being anywhere if you're thinking stuff like that. Well, a few minutes later, old Jamie pulled it up, and Joe was like, wow. Well, no shit. Well, that was Donald Trump said that, huh? Yeah, that was Donald Trump said that. That wasn't Joe Biden. But, of course, what do? They just sit and say, well, we know he misspoke. I mean, you could tell he misspoke. You could tell he didn't really believe that or really mean that. So, double standards, I mean, is that what we're dealing in, Joe Rogan? Is that what it is? Because when you thought Joe Biden said it, he should be led away. His career was over. He was finished. He was done as a politician. But when Donald Trump said it, you give him a pass. That is the double standard that I'm so sick and tired of hearing from MAGA Republicans. There is no holding anyone accountable for shit. And when you set and accuse Joe Biden of saying something and say that his career should be over and say that he should be led away for saying something like that, and then you found out it was Donald Trump that said it, and you don't hold Trump to the same standard, then you're a hypocrite. And there's no other way of slicing it. But this isn't the first time that Joe Rogan has been fact-checked on his own show. He was also fact-checked back when he was spreading misinformation about the vaccine, and he was telling people how that it was giving people myocarditis. And he's fact-checked right on his own show. They're like, no, actually, that's not the case. They pulled it up. He reads it. And instead of saying, oh, hold on a minute, wait, I got this one wrong, what does he do? He just goes, well, I read somewhere else that it said the opposite. And I mean, who wrote that? We don't know who wrote that. So when it was something that opposed what he initially believed, he wrote it off as fake news. But when it was something that fit his preconceived notion, he believed it and continued to push it even further. And that's the difference between us and them. I've always said all along, if you can hand me credible evidence, put it in front of me. And when I say evidence, I don't mean your beliefs. I don't mean what your daddy said. I don't mean what your preacher said. I don't mean what some talking head somewhere said. I mean credible evidence. If you can put it in front of me, and you can show me where Joe Biden broke the law, and you can show me where Joe Biden is guilty, then I say punish him to the fullest extent of the law. He's not above the law. Just because he's president, he does not have immunity. I will never sit here in this chair and defend Joe Biden for wrongdoing. And I know a lot of people will say, yeah, but he's doing all kinds of things wrong. He may be doing things that you disagree with. He may be governing in a style that you disagree with. But governing in a style that you disagree with is not breaking the law. And you believing in every cooked-up conspiracy theory that you can find on the internet and you can find from someone like Joe Rogan sitting in a chair and pulling it up doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it real. But it's people like Joe Rogan and these large platforms that creates this illusion that there's a both sides argument here. Well, a whole lot of people believe this. Well, yeah, a whole lot of people believe a lot of things. That doesn't make it right. All it does is continue to muddy the water and push the narrative that, oh, there's two sides to this and more people believes this way. 2 + 2 = 4, folks. That's a fact. I'm sorry if anybody out there thinks it's 76. I'm sorry if Joe Rogan gets his entire platform and convinces them that 2 + 2 = 76. He may get a lot of people to believe in it. He may get a lot of people to make T-shirts. He may get a lot of people to protest in the streets and tell them we want it in every math textbook in the country. We want it changed to 2 + 2 = 76. He may convince a lot of people to believe it. But the answer is 4. And until you can somehow bring credible evidence to prove otherwise, it's going to remain 4. I don't understand how that we've come to this point where we just literally take anything that we hear and buy it as gospel automatically, which I'm not shocked because that's how people are raised. When you're raised up in a home where you're took to a building every Sunday and you're told don't ever question this, then yeah, you're not going to question anything else later in life. And there's a whole lot of people who may outgrow religion, There's a whole lot of people who may stray completely away from it. There's a whole lot of people who may say, yeah, I no longer believe in that. But those elements you were taught as a kid to never question stuff, and when presented with evidence, say, well, I don't know where that came from. Do you know how many times I heard that growing up in the church when I would say, hey, look at what I found. I found some evidence here. I found some evidence that disproves this whole thing. Well, I don't know where that come from, buddy. That type of thinking and that type of mentality started at a young age when people were groomed to believe that bullshit, and they might have stopped listening to Billy Graham, but they're tuned into Joe Rogan. And fact-checked on his own show, he just moves the goalpost and keeps moving. I'd have much more respect for Joe Rogan. I would have much more respect for Joe Rogan if, when he was fact-checked to his face there, if he said, well, yeah, I mean, I hold Trump to the same standard. He's done. Take him away. I could respect that more. And when he was proven wrong for spreading misinformation, I would have much more respect if he said, hey, look, I got this wrong. I don't want to further spread this shit. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the times I said that on my show, I'm going to take those out of my episode because I don't want that out there floating around in the world for people to catch on to and believe. But he won't. He'll just double down and move the goalpost, and that's why I quit watching him a long time ago. Yes, I used to watch Joe Rogan. There was times that I even defended Joe Rogan when I felt that the media did take things he said out of context. But there come a point when I could no longer defend it. You see, as long as he was sitting there talking with Dan Aykroyd about aliens, I had no problem with that. As long as he was sitting there talking with The Undertaker about wrestling Jake the Snake, I didn't care. When he was interviewing people that I liked and they were talking about music or talking about sports or talking about history or whatever the hell, it didn't bother me. But when he started turning over his platform to conspiracy theorists and doctors who had been barred and taking their word for it and putting it out there in the world, all he done was create this illusion that there's two sides to right and wrong. Well, there's not. There's right, there's wrong. That's it. But yeah, this isn't the first time Joe Rogan's been fact checked. It won't be the last. I'm sure from here on out, whenever he's fact checked, he will double down and move the goalpost. But I really would like to see one day people like him come around to saying, you know, we got this wrong, and here's why, and we're not going to keep repeating this bullshit. But I wouldn't hold my breath on that.